I remember when it all seemed perfect. The first time I saw him, I swear I felt like the earth shifted beneath me. His smile, his laugh, the way his eyes softened when they looked at me. Everything about him made me believe I was the luckiest person alive. It wasn't just his charm, though. It was his warmth. He made me feel like I was the only person in the room, even if we were surrounded by people. I never thought a love like that could fade. We met at a friend's party. I was standing by the food table, nursing a glass of wine, pretending I wasn't awkward. He walked over, introduced himself, and in that moment, I realized I had no idea how to carry on a conversation anymore. I'd always been a bit shy, but there was something about him that made me nervous. And yet, the way he laughed when I said something stupid made me feel like I was the funniest person he'd ever met. It was easy to talk to him. The months that followed were a blur of dates, laughter, and those small moments where time seemed to stand still. We'd spend nights talking about our dreams, about the future. He was the kind of guy who always seemed to have a plan, someone who knew what he wanted. And I just wanted him. I felt safe with him, like nothing could ever break what we had. "Do you ever think about the future?" he asked me one night as we lay on the couch in his apartment. The lights of the city outside twinkled like stars. "All the time," I replied, resting my head on his chest, hearing his heartbeat steady under my ear. "I think about growing old with you." I meant it too. I had no doubts in my mind. He was the one. I was sure of it. But somewhere, somehow, that certainty started to slip through my fingers, like sand in the wind. It didn't happen all at once. No, it was small things at first, the kind of things you might shrug off if you were too focused on the bigger picture. I noticed him working late more often, or coming home smelling like another woman's perfume, but he always had a reasonable explanation. "A client, babe," he'd say, and I'd nod trustingly. But somewhere in the back of my mind, a tiny, nagging thought began to form. It was those late nights, those unexplained absences, when I'd hear him on the phone with someone, his voice dropping low. I never questioned it, never thought it was anything serious. I told myself I was being paranoid, that we were fine, that this was just a phase. He had work to do, after all. And I was the supportive wife, the one who believed in his dreams, no matter how much they kept him away from me. One night, I remember lying in bed, waiting for him to come home. He'd told me he'd be late again. "Another work thing, babe. I'll be there in an hour." An hour passed, then 2. The minutes stretched into hours, and my phone sat silent. No text, no call. I told myself I was being irrational, but that feeling in my gut, that was real. I'd spent hours staring at the clock, waiting for him to walk through the door, his usual smile lighting up the room. But when he finally came home, it wasn't the same. He didn't seem happy to see me like he usually did. There was a distance in his eyes, something cold that I hadn't seen before. He kissed me briefly, muttered something about being exhausted, and crawled into bed without another word. "Is everything okay?" I asked, my voice tentative, trying to break the silence. "Yeah," he mumbled, pulling the covers up over his head. "Just tired." But I could feel it. There was something more to it, something deeper. And that's when the thought crept into my mind. What if? What if he was slipping away from me? What if he wasn't the person I thought he was? But I didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to let go of the dream I had, the dream where we were inseparable. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, my thoughts racing. I wanted to believe in him, in us, but there was something about his behavior, something I couldn't ignore anymore. Something was changing. Something was broken. But I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to believe that the person I loved was capable of breaking my heart. So I buried those thoughts deep inside, hoping they'd go away, hoping things would go back to normal. After all, we were in love, right? That's the thing about love. It blinds you. You don't want to see the cracks. You don't want to believe the worst. Because if you do, you might just lose everything you thought you had. And I wasn't ready for that yet. Not yet. I didn't want to admit it. I really didn't. But the signs, the little things, kept piling up, and I couldn't just ignore them forever. At first, I convinced myself it was nothing, just my paranoia, my insecurities taking over. But the feeling didn't go away. It festered, quietly gnawing at me. One night, as I was flipping through a magazine on the couch, I heard him talking on the phone in the next room. His voice was low, too low, as if he didn't want me to overhear. But it wasn't what he said. That caught my attention. It was the tone. He sounded different, almost flirtatious, like he was trying too hard to be charming. I'd never heard him sound like that before. Not with me. Not ever. When he walked back into the room, I tried to act normal, but my heart was pounding. I smiled, trying to cover it up. "Everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep the suspicion out of my voice. "Yeah," he replied quickly, dropping down beside me on the couch, too quickly. "Just a work thing. Long day." His smile was strained. That should have been my first red flag. "Okay," I said, but I didn't feel okay. Something didn't sit right, and I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. I told myself I was overthinking it. I told myself I was being irrational, but when I glanced at him again, I could see it in his eyes. There was something distant. A few days later, I decided to check his phone. I don't know why. Maybe I just needed confirmation that I was being paranoid. Or maybe I was looking for a reason to stop feeling so out of control. Either way, when I scrolled through his messages, I found it. A text, late at night, from a number I didn't recognize. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. I'll be thinking about you all night." My heart dropped into my stomach. I stared at the screen. My breath caught in my throat. Who was this? I had to know. I scrolled through the rest of the conversation, my hands shaking, but nothing stood out. No names, no real information. Just those words. I tried to talk myself out of it. Maybe it's just a colleague, maybe it's nothing. But the seed of doubt had been planted. When he came home that evening, I pretended like everything was fine. But I felt it. His absence. The gap between us had widened, and every time he looked at me, I felt like he wasn't really seeing me. I tried to ignore it, but the unease crept into every corner of my mind. "Hey, babe," I said, forcing a smile. "We haven't had time to talk today. How was work?" He smiled back, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Busy," he replied curtly, like he couldn't be bothered. He turned away, heading for the kitchen without another word. That's when I realized, this isn't how it used to be. He'd always been so eager to talk to me, to share his day. But now, he was shutting me out, little by little. And it hurt. I tried to tell myself it was just a phase, that he was tired, overworked. But deep down, I knew better. I knew there was something else. Something I wasn't seeing yet. Later that night, I asked him if he wanted to spend some time together. I wasn't expecting much, but a little attention, a little affection. He agreed, though I could tell he was distracted. We were lying on the couch, his arm around me, but it didn't feel like it used to. The intimacy was gone, replaced by a coldness that I couldn't ignore. "Are you okay?" I asked, my voice quieter than I meant it to be. He was so far away, even, though he was right beside me. "Yeah, just tired," he muttered, pulling away just slightly, like even the smallest amount of closeness made him uncomfortable. I swallowed hard. Was I imagining this? I wanted to scream, to ask him what was going on, but the words wouldn't come. What if I was wrong? What if I was just making it all up in my head? But deep down, I knew. I knew something had shifted, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. I wasn't stupid. The signs were all there, small as they were. And I wasn't ready to let him go. Not yet. But I couldn't just keep pretending either. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. I tried to push it all out of my mind, but I couldn't. I thought back to all the little things I'd missed before. The late nights, the strange texts, the coldness. It all made sense now, didn't it? The cracks were there. I just hadn't seen them, and maybe, just maybe, I was going to have to face the truth. Whether I wanted to or not, I wasn't looking for it. I didn't go snooping. But that night, I couldn't stop myself. I told myself I was just checking something small. Maybe he'd left his phone unlocked or there'd been a missed call, nothing more. But the moment I picked it up, I knew. It was like the air in the room thickened, the weight of it pressing down on me, even before I unlocked it. The screen lit up, showing the last notification from a number I didn't recognize. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. I'll be thinking about you all night." My heart stopped. I wasn't sure I was breathing. I stared at the message, my fingers trembling as I read it over and over. Who was this? I quickly scrolled through the thread of texts, hoping I was wrong, hoping I could explain it away. But no, it was all there. The casual flirtation, the promises to meet up, the references to things I couldn't even understand, and the dates. They went back for weeks, maybe longer. Every word, every sentence felt like a punch to my gut. I dropped the phone, stepping back like it had burned me. My pulse raced, my chest tight. This wasn't happening. I had to be wrong. I had to be. "Babe?" I heard his voice from the other room, distant, like he was already too far away. "What are you doing?" I stood frozen for a moment, too scared to turn around. "Nothing," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. My stomach churned. "Just looking for something." He walked into the room, giving me a quick, curious glance, and I hated how easily I knew what he was going to say next. "You okay?" he asked, his voice too casual, too normal. "You look pale." I could feel my heart hammering in my chest, but I didn't know what to say. How could I say it? I wanted to scream, to accuse him, but I was too scared of the answer. What if I was wrong? What if it was something else? "Yeah, I'm fine," I lied, trying to force a smile. But I could feel the tears burning at the back of my eyes. He couldn't know, not yet. "Okay, well, I'm going to bed," he said, and for a moment, he looked at me with that same tired expression he'd had for days. "Good night." "Night," I muttered, my voice thick, and I watched him leave, the door clicking, shut behind him. I sat on the couch, the weight of the phone message still heavy in my hands. My mind was racing, spinning out of control. The betrayal, the lies, it all hit me at once. I wanted to cry, I wanted to throw something, I wanted to confront him, but I couldn't move. My thoughts kept spiraling. How long? How many times? Why didn't I see this coming? I jumped when my phone buzzed. A message from my best friend Lily. "Hey, you all right? You've been quiet all day. Need to talk?" I stared at the message for a few seconds. Part of me wanted to reach out to tell her everything, but I couldn't. I couldn't even process it myself. Instead, I just typed back, "I'm fine, just tired." The reply came almost immediately. "You sure? You know I'm here for you, right?" I squeezed my eyes shut, my chest tight with everything I was holding in. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Not yet. I sat there for what felt like hours, everything around me muffled, distant, like I was underwater. How could he do this to me? How could he betray me like this, after everything we'd built? My mind was a jumbled mess of confusion and rage. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to confront him. I had to know. But part of me was terrified of the truth. What if I was wrong? What if he had a good explanation? I stood up, almost in a daze, and walked toward the bedroom. My heart was pounding, each step feeling heavier than the last. I opened the door slowly, and there he was, lying in bed, his back to me. "Hey," I said, my voice sounding foreign to me, shaking. "We need to talk." He turned over, looking at me with those tired eyes, his face so calm. Too calm. "About what?" he asked, his voice casual. I couldn't hold it in any longer. "About this," I said, holding up the phone, the evidence of his betrayal right in front of him. "Whose I'll be thinking about you all night." His face froze. His eyes flickered briefly before he masked his reaction, but it was Too late. I already knew. I can explain, he stammered. But the words felt empty, like he was trying to pull himself out of something too deep to escape. I felt like I was drowning. Explain? How? How do you explain this? I spat, my voice trembling with emotion. How do you explain the lies, the texts, the betrayal? He opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. I didn't want to hear his excuses. Not now. I don't want to hear it, I said, shaking my head. I don't know who you are anymore. The silence between us was unbearable. I felt my entire world crumbling, the pieces falling away. And all I could think was, what now? I couldn't sleep. Not after what happened. Not after seeing those messages, the ones that made my stomach churn with each word. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing, my thoughts a blur, of rage and confusion. I wanted to confront him. I wanted to scream, to throw things, to demand answers. But another part of me, the part I hated, wanted to pretend it wasn't real. Pretend that nothing had changed, that everything was still perfect. What if I was wrong? What if I was just being paranoid? I had to be wrong, but what if I wasn't? The silence in the room felt deafening. I reached for my phone, the screen lighting up in the dark. There were still those messages, still the proof. I thought about calling him, about asking him point blank, but I couldn't do it. Not yet. Knew I should. I knew I had every right to demand answers, but when I imagined his face, calm and collected, trying to explain away what he'd done, a sick feeling rose in my chest. I didn't know if I could handle that. What if he told me it meant nothing? What if he made me feel stupid for being hurt? I closed my eyes, breathing in deeply, trying to push the thoughts out of my mind, but the memories came flooding in anyway. I remembered when we first met, how everything felt so easy, so perfect. How he would look at me like I was the only person in the room. I thought I could trust him. I thought he was the one who would never hurt me. I love you, he told me on our first date. I remember the way his eyes sparkled when he said it. I'd believed him then. I had no reason not to. It was the kind of love I'd always dreamed about, simple, pure, unbreakable. I thought I was enough for him. But now, it felt like all of that had been a lie. And I hated myself for believing it. For trusting him so completely, for letting my guard down. Maybe I'd been foolish. Maybe I was so desperate to believe in the fairy tale that I ignored the warning signs. I sat up in bed, clutching my phone in my hands. The weight of everything was too much to bear. I could feel the anger bubbling inside me, but it was buried beneath layers of fear. Fear of losing him, fear of losing myself. What if I confronted him and he told me it was over? What if he left? Me? What if it was my fault? Was I not enough for him? I ran my hands through my hair, my chest tightening with every thought. I couldn't breathe. Suddenly, I heard the creak of the floorboards outside our bedroom door. I froze. He was standing. There, in the hallway, I could hear his breath, steady but hesitant. Like he knew I was awake. Like he knew something was wrong but didn't know how to face it. I didn't turn around. I didn't want to look at him. But I knew he was waiting for me to speak. Waiting. For me to break the silence. I finally let out a shaky breath and whispered, "Why?" He didn't answer right away. I could hear him shift, probably running a hand through his hair, probably trying to find the right words. "What are you talking about?" His voice was low, but it held a kind of tension that made my stomach churn. I bit my lip, resisting the urge to turn around to look at him. Don't pretend like nothing's wrong. I could feel the tears welling up, but I forced them back. I couldn't break down like this. Not yet. You think I'm stupid, don't you? What are you talking about? He repeated, this time more firmly. There was confusion in his voice, but it didn't sound genuine. I could tell he was trying to act innocent. But I knew better. The messages, I said, barely able to keep my voice steady. Who is she? Who is the one you've been texting? Why are you doing this to me? The silence stretched between us, and I felt the distance, the gulf that had opened up between us. I didn't want to look at him, but I had to know. I had to see his face when I said it. I turned around slowly, and there he was, standing in the doorway, his eyes wide, his mouth slightly open. "You've been cheating on me," I said, and my voice cracked. I hated how weak I sounded, but I couldn't stop it. "How long?" He stood there, frozen, and for a moment I thought he was going to deny it. But then his eyes dropped to the floor like he couldn't bear to look at me anymore. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he muttered. "I'm sorry, it was a mistake. I never meant to hurt you." I could feel my chest tightening, my heart breaking piece by piece. His apology felt empty, like it was just another excuse, another way to avoid taking responsibility. And in that moment, I realized something. No apology would ever be enough. Not for this. "I don't want to hear it," I said, standing up and walking past him, my body trembling with each step. "I can't believe you did this to me." He didn't follow me. He just stood there, silent. And I couldn't decide if I hated him or if I was still holding on to the love I thought we had. But it didn't matter anymore. What we had was gone. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw things. I wanted to make him feel what I felt. But I couldn't. All I could do was walk away, knowing that nothing would ever be the same again. I couldn't hold it in any longer. The rage, the confusion, the hurt. They were all too much to bear. I had to confront him. I had to know the truth, even if it broke me. I paced back and forth in the living room, the phone still in my hand. My palms were clammy, my breath shallow. I had stared at the damn screen so many times, but now it felt like I was holding a ticking bomb. My heart thudded in my chest as I heard him moving around in the kitchen, humming like everything was normal. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves, but it was useless. There was no easy way to do this. I walked into the kitchen, my steps heavy on the floor. He didn't even notice me at first, too busy rummaging through the fridge. But when I cleared my throat, he turned around, his face lighting up with a smile that I couldn't bring myself to return. "Hey babe, what's up?" he asked, looking at me like he had no idea what was coming. He probably didn't, but that didn't matter anymore. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I held out the phone. "Who's this?" I asked, my voice trembling but firm. His eyes flickered, and for a moment I thought I saw a flash of panic in them. But he quickly masked it with a smile. That damn smile. "What are you talking about?" "This," I said, holding the phone up higher. "Who is this person? The texts, the late nights, the lies. How long has this been going on?" I could see him swallow hard, his usual charm slipping for just a moment. "It's nothing. You're overreacting." I shook my head, my anger boiling over. "Overreacting? You think I'm overreacting?" My voice cracked. "I saw the messages. I saw how you've been lying to me. How long, huh? How long have you been cheating?" He looked at the floor, not meeting my eyes. I could hear him take a shaky breath, like he was trying to gather the courage to say something. Anything. But the silence dragged on, suffocating the space between us. Finally, he spoke, but it wasn't an apology. It wasn't even remorse. "It's not what you think," he said, his voice soft, defensive. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It just happened." I couldn't believe it. He was still trying to explain it away like it was some accident. I wanted to scream at him, to make him feel what I was feeling, but all I could do was stare at him, my heart shattering with every word he said. "Just happened?" I repeated, my voice thick with disbelief. "Do you think I'm stupid? That I won't see through that? You've been seeing someone else behind my back and you're telling me it just happened?" His face softened like he was trying to reach out to me, but I wasn't having it. "It was a mistake." I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted, but I never stopped loving you. The words stung. They didn't even sound real. How could he say he loved me after everything? How could he look me in the eye and say that? I felt so small, so helpless, standing there with the phone in my hand, watching him try to manipulate me into feeling sorry for him. "You don't get it," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "You don't get to love me and still do this. You don't get to betray me and think it's okay because you didn't know what you wanted. You've destroyed everything." I could see it in his eyes, the guilt, the regret, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to take back what he'd done, to undo the damage. I wasn't sure what hurt more, the lies, the betrayal, or the fact that I had spent so long convincing myself that he would never do this to me, that we were stronger than this. "I'm sorry," he said again, his voice quieter now, almost pleading. "I really am. Please, don't leave." My heart cracked at the sound of that plea. I wanted to feel sorry for him. I wanted to believe that this was just a mistake, that everything could be fixed. But the damage was done. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you," I whispered, tears welling up in my eyes. I turned away from him, not wanting him to see how broken I was. But I knew I couldn't run from this anymore. "Please, don't leave me," he said, his voice frantic now, desperate. "I can fix this. We can fix this. I promise. I'll do whatever it takes." But I didn't believe him. I couldn't. The words didn't mean anything. Not anymore. He could beg all he wanted, but it wouldn't change what he'd done to me. To us. "I don't know how to fix this," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I don't know if I even want to anymore." I could feel his eyes on me, but I couldn't look at him. Not now. Not when everything had changed. The silence between us grew thick and suffocating. He stood there, probably waiting for me to say something, to tell him everything was going to be okay. But I couldn't. I couldn't lie to him. Not anymore. Finally, I turned toward the door, my legs weak, my heart heavy. "I need time," I said, my voice trembling. "I need time to think." He didn't stop me. He didn't say another word. But as I walked away, I could feel the power shift. There was no going back now. This was it. I couldn't focus on anything. Not work, not the dishes, not even breathing. It was like my mind was a storm, constantly spinning, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. All I could think about was him. All I could think about was the betrayal, the lies, the hurt. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter and I jumped, like it had just burned me. I stared at it for a moment, willing myself not to reach for it. I already knew what was on the screen. His name, his messages, that damn number I didn't recognize. But I couldn't stop myself. I picked up the phone, my fingers shaking as I opened the conversation. I had read it 100 times, but it didn't make sense. It didn't stop hurting. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. I'll be thinking about you all night." Over and over. I didn't even know this person, but I felt like I knew them all too well now. I hated them. I hated him. I dropped the phone onto the counter, stepping back like I was afraid it would burn me too. How could he do this? How could he betray me like this? We had built something real. I thought I was enough for him. But now I was nothing. Was I really nothing to him? The tears came, hot and fast, like they had been waiting for permission to fall. I wiped them away angrily, like I could just erase the pain. Like I could make it go away by pretending it wasn't there. I went to the window, staring out into the street, seeing nothing. I tried to breathe, to get a grip, but it was like I was suffocating. Every breath felt heavier than the last. Thoughts kept circling in my head. What did she look like? Was she pretty? Was she better than me? I could see his face when he was with her, smiling, laughing, touching her the way he used to touch me. A loud bang startled me. I realized I had slammed my fist against the windowsill without even realizing it. My hand hurt, but the pain didn't matter. Nothing mattered. All that mattered was the question I couldn't escape. How long? How long had he been lying to me? How many times had he been with her while I was sitting here thinking we were fine? I wanted to know everything. I needed to know everything. I didn't even know if I could stand it, but I needed the details. I needed to know who she was, how they met, when it started, everything. I needed the truth. I grabbed the phone again. I needed to see more. Anything. Everything. I scrolled through the conversation, reading each message again, trying to make sense of it. But it didn't help. It only made it worse. I hated it. I hated myself for not walking away sooner, for not seeing the signs. I had let him convince me that it was nothing. But it was everything. Another buzz. My heart skipped a beat. My mind screamed at me to stop. But I couldn't. I opened the message, not even registering who it was from. It was Lily. She had been trying to get a hold of me for days, but I hadn't picked up. Not after what I found. Hey, I'm really worried. About you. You haven't been answering, and you're not yourself. Please talk to me. I stared at the screen, her words sinking in. I wanted to reach out. I wanted to talk to someone, to scream, to ask for help. But I couldn't. How could I explain this? How could I say the words out loud? How could I tell her that the person I loved, the person I trusted with my whole heart, had shattered me in ways I couldn't even understand yet? I slid the phone across the counter, the message still sitting there, taunting me. I didn't know what to do anymore. I couldn't talk to her, not yet. She wouldn't understand. No one would understand. I paced the apartment, my thoughts spinning again. My mind was a mess, and the more I thought about it, the worse it got. Why didn't he love me enough? Why did he need her? Every thought, every question felt like it was ripping me apart, piece by piece. I tried to sleep that night, but my mind wouldn't shut off. The bed felt too big without him, too empty. His side was cold. It was like his absence was a weight pressing down on me, making it harder to breathe. I closed my eyes, but every time I did, I saw his face. I saw her face. I saw them together. My stomach twisted in knots. I wanted to crawl out of my skin. I wanted to forget. But I couldn't. I didn't know how to forget. By morning, I had barely slept. My eyes were swollen from crying, and my head ached. I dragged myself out of bed, trying to pretend I was okay, trying to force myself to function. But it was like I was moving in slow motion. Every action felt like a chore. Every thought felt like a weight. I couldn't think about anything else. I was consumed by the hurt, by the betrayal. I picked up the phone again, and for a brief moment, I considered calling him, demanding that he tell me everything. But I already knew. I already had the answers. And there was nothing he could say to take it back. I put the phone down. I didn't want to hear him lie to me again. I didn't want to hear him apologize like he always did. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered anymore. I had to let go of him. But the thought of it felt impossible. And yet, it was the only thing left to do. I woke up feeling different. The heaviness I'd been carrying for days, maybe weeks, was still there. But something inside me had shifted. Maybe it was the sleepless nights catching up to me or the endless hours I spent staring at the ceiling, consumed by all the hurt and confusion. But today, I didn't feel broken. Not entirely, at least. I stared at the phone in my hand, the same phone that had caused all of this, the proof, the lies, the betrayal. My thumb hovered over his name and my contacts, and for the first time since I found out, I didn't feel the instinct to call him, to cry, to beg for some kind of answer that would make this all go away. The truth was, there were no answers that could make this go away. I'd spent so long in pain replaying everything, wondering if it was me, if I wasn't enough. But now, something had changed. I wasn't going to keep waiting for him to fix this. He'd already broken me, and I couldn't keep letting him have that power. I couldn't keep waiting for him to apologize, to regret, to fall on his knees and beg me to stay. That was never going to happen, and I knew it. What I needed now was to decide what I was going to do for me. The thought terrified me, but at the same time, it felt empowering. I didn't need him. I deserved more than this. I deserved someone who would never make me feel small or unimportant. Someone who would cherish me the way I had always cherished them. I wasn't some backup plan. I wasn't a second choice. Put the phone down and walked into the living room. The apartment felt so empty without him. I had gotten so used to his presence, the way he'd fill every space in the room, whether he was talking, laughing, or even just sitting there. But now everything felt cold, like a ghost was haunting it, and that ghost was me. I could hear the sound of him in the bedroom, probably getting ready for work, acting like everything was fine, like nothing had changed. And maybe, in his mind, nothing had. But for me, I was a different person. I wasn't the same person who trusted him with my heart. I thought about the times we'd spent together, all the good memories. I thought about how he used to tell me everything, how he'd make me feel like I was the only one. It hurt, thinking about it. But it also gave me clarity. It wasn't love. It wasn't loyalty. It was just convenience for him. And I wasn't going to be anyone's second choice anymore. I made my decision. I walked into the bedroom where he was already dressed, his shirt tucked in, his tie perfectly knotted. He looked up at me with that same smile, the one that used to make my heart flutter, but now it only made me want to scream. "Hey, you okay?" he asked, his voice too casual, too normal. I nodded, my mouth dry. "Yeah, just thinking." "About what?" he asked, stepping closer. He reached for my hand, but I pulled back, not wanting to feel his touch anymore. "I'm done," I said, my voice barely a whisper at first, but then it grew stronger, more confident. "I can't keep doing this. I can't keep living in this lie. I'm not going to wait around for you to maybe realize what you've done. I'm done." His eyes widened, and for a moment, I thought I saw something in his expression. Fear? Regret? But it disappeared as quickly as it came. He stepped back, his face hardening. "What are you talking about? We can fix this. We can work through this." I shook my head, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "No. You've already made your choice. And it wasn't me." He opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. "I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not begging for your love. I'm not going to sit here and wait for you to come back when it's convenient for you. I deserve more than that." He just stood there, frozen, like he didn't know what to say. And for the first time, I felt like the one with power. Not him. Not the man who'd broken me and now wanted to fix it like it was all some simple mistake. "I don't even know who you are anymore," I continued, my voice steady. "And I'm not going to keep trying to find you. Because the person I loved, he's gone. And I'm not going to sit around waiting for him to come back." He opened his mouth again, but I didn't wait for him to speak. I turned away, walking toward the door. "I'll figure things out," I said, without looking back. I always have. The door clicked shut behind me, and I felt a rush of emotion hit me all at once. Relief, pain, freedom, all of it mixed together. I wanted to collapse, to cry, to scream, but I couldn't. Not yet. I had to keep moving forward. I stepped out into the cold air, breathing deeply, like I was finally able to breathe again. I had taken control of my life. I wasn't going to let him or anyone make me feel worthless anymore. I wasn't going to be defined by his mistakes. I wasn't going to wait for anyone to tell me I was enough. I was enough on my own. And in that moment, I realized that maybe, just maybe, the hardest part was finally over. It was time to start living for me. I was done pretending. Done trying to smooth things over. I had made my decision, and nothing was going to stop me. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice. It was about me taking back what I'd lost. The power, the control, the life that had been ripped away from me. I was sitting, in the car, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. My mind raced, but I knew exactly what I was doing. I had to confront him, not behind closed doors, not in the quiet safety of our home. No, this had to be public. It had to be witnessed. He needed to know that I wasn't just some doormat he could walk all over. I pulled into the parking lot of the restaurant where he had made plans to meet her. I'd known about the dinner for days. He hadn't told me, of course, but Lily had. She'd overheard him talking about it when they were all at the bar last week. And I had been waiting for the perfect moment to make my move. I checked my phone one last time. I had no intention of calling him or texting him. He'd had enough chances to fix this. No more second chances. I didn't even care if he saw me here. This wasn't about him anymore. This was for me. This was for the years I'd wasted believing in him. For all the nights I stayed awake, trying to figure out what went wrong. For the lies. I walked into the restaurant, scanning the room. There they were, sitting at a table in the corner, laughing too loudly, looking too comfortable. She was sitting too close to him. Their bodies were angled toward each other in a way that sent a sick feeling through my chest. I could feel the rage building inside me, but I kept walking. I was calm. I was in control. I approached their table, my heels clicking against the floor. They both looked up, their smiles faltering when they saw me. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. And he looked like he wished he could crawl under the table and disappear. Well, I said, my voice colder than I thought it would be. What a lovely dinner you two are having. His face turned pale. What are you doing here? He stammered. This isn't what you think? Oh, it's exactly what I think, I said, cutting him off. I think you've been lying to me. I think you've been lying to both of us. She shifted in her seat, eyes darting nervously between the two of us. I could see her fidgeting, her face flushed with embarrassment. But I wasn't about to feel sorry for her. This wasn't her fault. He was the one who made the choice to cheat. He was the one who betrayed me. Please, he said, looking up at me now, his voice shaking. Let me explain. I tilted my head slightly, eyes narrowing. Explain what? How you've been screwing around behind my back for months while I was at home waiting for you? How you lied to me about working late? You didn't think I would find out? I saw his hands tremble, and for a split second, I felt a rush of power. He was scared. Good. He should be. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I thought... You... Thought what? I interrupted, stepping closer to him. That I wouldn't care? That I wouldn't feel this? This isn't just about some mistake, some casual fling. This is about disrespect. This is about you thinking you could have it all. While I was left here blind to everything, he opened his mouth to say something else, but no words came out. The shame in his eyes was so damn obvious. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I turned to the woman sitting beside him. And you? I asked, my voice sharp. Do you think you're... some prize? Do you think you're the first to fall for his charm, his lies? I bet you didn't know he had a wife waiting at home, did you? Or maybe you just didn't care. Her face flushed deeper. She opened her mouth to speak, but I didn't give her the chance. You don't get to play innocent here. You knew exactly what he was doing. And now look at us. You think you're the one who gets to walk away unscathed? I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself, trying to ground myself in the realization of what was happening. I was letting go. I was taking my life back. I wasn't going to beg him to love me. I wasn't going to cry anymore. This was the final chapter. I turned my gaze back to him. You don't get to have both of us. I'm done. His eyes filled with guilt. Please don't leave like this. We can work this out. You have to believe me. I never meant to hurt you. I felt a bitter laugh escape me. It's too late for that. You're not the man I thought you were. You never were. And now you're just nothing. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm walking away. I turned toward the door, the weight of my decision settling in. For the first time, I felt lighter. He couldn't hurt me anymore. Not like this. I wasn't going to let him. I wasn't going to keep giving him pieces of my soul that he didn't deserve. As I stepped outside, I let the cool night air hit my face, breathing deeply. I wasn't crying anymore. I wasn't angry. I was free. Finally, Free, I barely made it out of the restaurant. My legs were shaky, my heart pounding in my chest like it was trying to escape. I could still feel his eyes on me, even though I had turned my back and walked away. I couldn't look back. I wasn't sure I could handle seeing the guilt, the regret, or whatever emotion he was trying to show me now. I had seen enough. It didn't matter anymore. When I got home, the silence was suffocating. The apartment felt too big, too empty. I threw my purse on the couch and walked into the bedroom. His side of the bed was still perfectly made, like he'd never even been there, like nothing had changed, but everything had. I sat on the edge of the bed, my hands shaking as I thought about the confrontation, the words I had said, the way he tried to apologize. He looked like a man broken, like the walls were closing in on him, but I didn't care. His guilt wasn't mine to carry anymore. I couldn't keep shouldering the weight of his mistakes. The door creaked open, and I looked up to see him standing. There, his figure framed in the doorway. His face was unreadable, but his eyes were full of something I couldn't name. Regret? Desperation? Anger? Maybe a mixture of everything. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice soft, almost pleading. I didn't answer right away. I didn't want to. Part of me wanted to tell him to leave, to never come back. But the other part, the one that had loved him so deeply, wanted to hear what he had to say. I didn't know why. I didn't know what I was hoping for anymore. I took a deep breath and looked up at him, the words slipping out of my mouth before I could stop them. "What's left to say? I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you." "You have to believe that," he said, stepping into the room. His voice cracked, and I could see the guilt eating at him. But I wasn't sure if it was guilt for what he'd done or guilt for getting caught. I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to throw everything in this room at him. I wanted him to feel what I felt. But I stayed still. I couldn't let him have that power anymore. "I don't need your apology," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't need to hear how sorry you are. You should have thought about that before." He took a step forward, and I felt my heart skip a beat. "Please," he said, his voice full of desperation. "I love you. I never stopped loving you. It wasn't supposed to happen. It was a mistake." I stood up, finally meeting his eyes. "A mistake? Is that what this is? A mistake?" I couldn't stop the bitterness from spilling out. "You didn't just make a mistake, you betrayed me, you lied to me, and you don't get to call it a mistake." His face twisted with emotion. I know, and I'm sorry. I can't take it back, but I'll do anything to fix this. I'll do whatever it takes." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that he would do anything to make this right. But how could I? How could I trust someone who had shattered my world? "Why should I believe you?" I asked, my voice trembling. "You've already shown me who you are. You've shown me that I'm not enough, and I can't keep doing this, pretending that we're fine, pretending that everything will go back to normal. Because it won't." He stepped closer, reaching for me, but I pulled away. "No," I said, my heart pounding. Don't touch me. I'm done." He flinched, and for a brief moment I saw the hurt in his eyes. But I didn't feel guilty. I couldn't. I had to let go. I had to. "Please don't leave," he begged. "I'll change. I'll prove to you that I'm sorry. We can fix this. We can work through it." But I shook my head. "No, I don't think we can. I've been holding on to this idea of us for so long, but I can't do it anymore. I can't keep holding on to someone who doesn't value me. I deserve more than this. And so do you." I turned away, my voice catching in my throat. "I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I'm asking for peace." He didn't say anything. He didn't argue. He just stood there silently, like he finally understood. Like he finally realized that he couldn't fix this. And for the first time in so long, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It wasn't about him. It was about me. I had to choose myself. I had to move forward. I didn't know what my future would look like, but I knew it was mine to build. I didn't need him for that. I didn't need anyone who could make me feel so small. I walked out of the room, leaving him standing there, and I felt something inside me shift, something strong, something that told me I was going to be okay. And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. I woke up to an empty bed again. I used to hate the silence, the stillness that came with it. But now, it was a strange kind of peace. I could hear the distant hum of traffic outside, but it didn't bother me. For the first time in weeks, my mind wasn't a whirlwind of questions, confusion, or rage. It was quiet. And I could finally breathe. I sat up, running my hands through my hair, and for a moment, I just stared at the space beside me. It was a reminder of what had been, of the years I'd spent convinced that everything was fine, that nothing could tear us apart. The past felt like it belonged to someone else, like it wasn't even my life. But it was. And I'd lived it. And now I was trying to make sense of the pieces that had been left behind. The confrontation with him felt like a lifetime ago. The look in his eyes, the desperation, the promises to change, to fix it. But I didn't believe him. I couldn't. There was nothing he could say now that would make it better. He'd had his chances, and he'd blown them all. I let out a shaky breath, pushing the blanket off my legs, standing up. I walked over to the window, looking out at the city below. The world hadn't stopped spinning, even though mine had. It had to go on, and so did I. I could still hear his voice in my head. I love you. Please don't leave me. He'd said it 100 times, each time more desperate than the last. I could almost feel the weight of his words, the pull, like he was trying to anchor me back to something that didn't exist anymore. But it was too late. I was done. I wasn't going to let myself fall back into that. I wasn't going to keep chasing a love that wasn't real anymore. He had destroyed it, and I needed to accept that. I had to let go. Do you love me? His voice echoed again, and for a moment I wanted to answer. I wanted to tell him that I loved him, that I could forgive him, that we could fix this. But that wasn't the truth. The truth was, love wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to make me forget what he had done, to ignore the lies and betrayal. I thought about everything I had gone through. The sleepless nights, the constant wondering if I was enough, if he was really mine. And I thought about how, in the end, I had become someone I didn't even recognize. I had let myself lose myself in someone else's mistakes, in someone else's choices, but not anymore. I had been lost for so long, but I was finding myself again. A knock at the door startled me. I had been so wrapped up in my thoughts that I hadn't even noticed the time. I walked over and opened it, and there he was, his face filled with that same regret. But I didn't feel anything anymore. Not for him. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice low. But there was no apology in his tone anymore. No plea. It was just empty words. I crossed my arms, standing firm. "I don't think we have anything left to say," I replied. "I've heard it all. The apologies, the excuses. I don't need them anymore. I don't need you." His face fell, and for a second, I thought I saw a glimpse of the man I used to love. But then I realized he was gone, and so was I. I was no longer the person who would beg for him to love me. I was stronger than that. He stood there for a moment, waiting for me to say something else. But I didn't. I didn't need to. I stepped aside, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I breathed deeply and felt at peace. "Goodbye," I said softly, and I meant it. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was free. As I closed the door behind him, I felt something shift inside me. The weight that had been on my chest was gone. There was no more anxiety, no more questioning my worth. No more wondering if I'd ever be okay. I was going to be okay. I stood there for a long moment, just letting it all sink in. It was over. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what came next. I didn't need closure from him. I didn't need an apology. I just needed to move forward. I walked to the mirror, staring at my reflection. I looked different. I felt different, and I was proud of that. I had been through hell, but I was still standing. I had been broken, but I wasn't shattered. I was stronger now. It was time to take control of my life again. It was time to heal. And this time, I wasn't doing it for anyone else. I was doing it for me. As I stepped into the next chapter of my life, I knew it wouldn't be easy. There would be hard days, days when I'd doubt myself, days when the pain would try to creep back in. But I was ready for it. I had faced my demons, and I had come out stronger. And that was all I needed.